This is probably one of the largest HUD classes that we've ever done, and we're looking forward to it being totally successful. Always have to have props when we do a HUD class, and this is mine. That's Hawaii in the background, and if you want to go for nothing, just pay attention to what we're doing. Sell one house. That's all you have to do is sell one HUD house. Take the commission check and put it in your night table drawer. When the pandemic's over, call your favorite travel agent and book a cruise around the Hawaiian Islands. If you want airfare, then sell two houses. I really don't know how easy I can make it for everyone to sell a HUD home. Well, first of all, what is a HUD home? Very simple. A HUD home is a property that sold with an FHA mortgage. The folks didn't pay, so they don't stay. The bank forecloses, turns the property back to HUD. The bank gets 100% of what they're owed. HUD turns the property over to a marketing company, and eventually it gets on the market. The great part about a HUD house is you really don't have to work hard to sell it. We're going to go over that one now. There's different types of mortgages that you can get with a HUD property. There's FHA, there's conventional, there is FHA 203, there is FHA rehab, K mortgage, which I happen to like best. Now in our area, which consists of New Jersey to Maine and the area in the Midwest that just came aboard, there's the $100 down program. Problem is, a lot of people think that's impossible. You can't do it. There's a trick to it. Well, there isn't. You can take most any HUD property, regardless of the condition that it's in, do a 203K rehab, same $100 down, and if you structure it correctly, you can take all the repairs and all the improvements and put it into the same $100 down mortgage. And the person next to me, Cathy Miller, wave Cath, hello. She's been doing the 203Ks and really is the go-to person in New Jersey and Pennsylvania for doing these rehab houses. Just for your own edification, it doesn't have to be a HUD house that does a 203K. You can do one of your retail listings for 203K. So there shouldn't be any reason why condition of the property would stop you from selling the house. If you have any questions, just raise your hand and we'll get to them as we go along. Now, who can buy a HUD home? Basically, anyone that's qualified. It used to be that there were, well, we're going to go over that later about how many HUD homes you can buy. Buyer must be pre-approved prior to placing a bid. If it's on the weekend, that's not a problem. Call your loan officer. You should have the pre-approval on Monday. Now, the benefits of buying a HUD home. HUD will pay up to 3% on closing costs only if you ask for it. If you don't ask for it on the initial bid, you don't get it. And once that bid is accepted, it's written in stone. It cannot be changed. So don't come back and say, well, the buyer wanted 3%, but I didn't ask for it. Too bad. There have been agents that did not put their commission in the bid. Oh, well, you just worked that one for nothing.
Hey, Ron?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure if you're taking questions now or maybe later.
Yeah, we'll take them later.
Later, okay.
Okay. Now, there's timelines on all properties. The benefit of buying a HUD house, if you're looking for an REO, is it doesn't necessarily work like Fannie or Freddie. And you all know how Fannie and Freddie work when you're placing an offer. If there's 15 bids, they will go back to all 15 buyers to come back with your highest and best. Well, your highest and best might wind up that you're bidding against yourself. With HUD, it's very simple. It's a one and done. You come in with your highest and best offer first. If you win it, great, you can go to Hawaii. If you don't, go to the next one. Now, there's owner-occupant priorities on all HUD properties. Most of them have 15-day owner-occupant, with the first 10 days being simultaneous. That means the first 10 days that a property is on the market, you don't have to rush and break your neck to get your buyer in first. All the bids are open day 11. If it doesn't sell then, which is very rare, the next 5 days are on a daily basis. The owner-occupant priority, we put this in our MLS, that should an investor cheat and buy it as an owner-occupant, and HUD does their quality control check on that particular property, and the buyer gets caught, they're subject to a $250,000 fine and 3 years in prison for defrauding the government. That will dissuade any investor from buying as an owner-occupant. Also, the benefits of buying a HUD home is the price. They're usually priced way, way under market. Unfortunately, in this crazy market that we're going through, we've had properties, and I know Eric has had the same thing. We've had properties sell for $30,000, $40,000, and $50,000 above my asking price without any problems on the appraisals because they're priced so reasonably. But I know in our area, which is New Jersey and Pennsylvania, we're getting a lot of New York buyers coming down and then North Jersey buyers coming down. They cannot believe the cost of our real estate. Me personally, I think it's high, but for a row house in New York, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. My goodness, you can buy a mini mansion in Pennsylvania and New Jersey for that kind of money. Next slide we go to. HUD has a special program which is called the Good Neighbor Next Door program. That's for police officers, fire department, nurses, school teachers. I'm sorry, forget the nurses, it's EMTs. So it's EMTs, school teachers, fire, and police. You have to place a bid. If the buyer wins, they get 50% off whatever the asking price is. Only one caveat to this particular program is HUD does not pay you a commission. If the buyer chooses to pay you a fee, that's between you and the buyer. That's an important program in some areas. I know in New Jersey, they base it on a revitalization area. If the listing is in a revitalization area, it goes on Good Neighbor for 7 days. If it doesn't sell, then it goes into the inventory and back to owner occupant. Next. One thing I have to mention that is really important. All bids are online and the bids are sealed, meaning no one knows how many bids are in, including the listing brokers, and no one knows how much the bid is. And there could be absolutely no signs of improprieties. And that means that if you're a listing broker, and we have many listing brokers on here, neither the broker nor anyone working for that company or their immediate family can purchase a HUD house. Anyone else can. In order to place a bid, you have to have an NAID number. And it's real simple. If you don't know what it is, it's name, address, identification. All authorized selling brokerages have to have an NAID number. And the agent also has to register, but register under their broker's NAID number. Without an NAID number, you cannot place a bid. That's the way it is. It takes about, 2 weeks. It used to take months in order for the broker to obtain an NAID number. If you're a broker on here now and you want some information on how to get the NAID number after the seminar, we're going to be on for about maybe a half hour to answer any of your questions. Now, all HUD homes, there's no holdbacks. There are some agencies that, well, we used to call them back in the day pocket listings. They had a great listing and you put it in your pocket and you just don't put it in the MLS and you try to sell it yourself. Well, that might have worked in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and even the 90s. Excuse me, but it doesn't not work with HUD. If it's available, it's on the HUD Home Store site. It's the listing broker's responsibility to have all these properties listed in the MLS within 24 hours of receiving it with photos. If there are branch offices the broker just uses their same NAID number. We have 11 offices. We use the same NAID number for all 11 offices. It's an interesting concept in real estate. I've been doing it for 21 years, as long as HUD has been privatized. 1 year, I had a good year. I closed 2,250 HUD homes in 1 year. That was not a team or not the office. It was just me. We had a well-oiled machine, and it just moved right along. All the properties will be on the HUD Home Store site. When I show a property, I have my cell phone with me, and the HUD Home Store site is right on there. So you show the HUD property and blah, blah, blah. The buyer walks through it. I don't go through it with the buyer. If you have any questions, come on back and we'll talk about it. Well, we'll have to think about this. Well, you might not think too long because the bid deadline is tomorrow night. But right away, the buyer thinks you're trying to hustle them, but you're not. So I take out my little cell phone and I said, this is the government website. This is the official site. This is what everybody has. And you can see all you have is 1 day to get your bidding. Due at 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night, Central Time. Remember, if you're on work in Eastern Time, you get an extra hour to put that bid in. This is what the HUD Home Store site looks like. Most of you are aware of it, but we have a lot of new agents that are on with us. And it's very simple. Just pick a state, hit. All the properties come out. What's in that state? The site will tell you how much each property is, what the condition of it is. There'll be a property condition report, which is called a PCR. Most REO sellers do not give you any disclosures at all. HUD does. It's not a home inspection. It's a general condition by the inspector when they go in the house. They check the mechanicals, they check the roof. They're not concerned with cosmetics because most of the HUD properties are cosmetically challenged anyway. But what you should be concerned about is the mechanicals. What we're going to do today is we're actually going to place a bid. Hana gets all upset when she hears this, but and we're going to show you really how easy it is to sell a HUD home.
All right, I have to switch through my screen, so we're going to go blank for a minute. I'll be right back.
Sure. Now, one thing you should keep in mind when you're selling a HUD home to a buyer, they will try to set you up with a question that doesn't warrant an answer. Well, how much would you bid for it? Whoa. No. That's not going to happen. And how I respond to a question like that, and almost everyone asked it, listen, I already have a house. You don't. So what I want you to keep in mind, it's not how much you're willing to pay for it. It's how much you're willing to lose it for. Now, we do a course, Psychology of Real Estate. And it's a lot of fun because as long as you have the advantage, psychological advantage of what's going on, you'll win. Hypothetically, if the house is $100,000, and this is how I'm talking to a buyer, if the house is $100,000, which this house is, and somebody bid 105, would you bid 107? and shut up. Do not answer your own question. Buyer's either going to come back with, yeah, sure, I'd give you 107 for this. Right away in your mind, you know your starting point is 107 on that $100,000 listing. Well, if they matched your 107, would you go 110? Yeah, I probably would. And you can keep this conversation going until you don't want to make it go anymore. So let's say we're at the 110 figure. Okay, let's get a bid in for 110. But what I want you to do is give me 5 lucky numbers on the end. So $110,526.11. How's that sound? But I let them pick the 5 lucky numbers. We've already won houses for $5 because our bid was $5 higher than the next bid. I know the agent who was bidding against us, well, he lost, we won. And it's not how many you lose, it's how many you win. So very rarely we'll sell anything under the ask price. And the whole idea is to be different. If it's 110,000, don't put 110,000. The next gal is going to be putting 110,000. Go 110 and 5 lucky numbers. It works. We've made many sales on those 5 numbers. We're going to place a bid on a house. This is what the HUD home store looks like. So we're going to get into New Jersey. And the reason
Gotta find it. So tiny. There we go.
Yeah, go on, handle it.
Which house, John? Where are we bidding?
Okay, where are we bidding? What do we want to bid?
I'm gonna go with 29 pennant.
Yeah, how much is that?
94,000.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so all we're gonna do is, if you didn't see that, we're gonna click on the property case number and it's gonna take you into the page for that property. Before you place any bids, like Ron was saying, you always want to look at the PCR, which is the property condition report. You're gonna click on addendums and look through this whole list. There's lots and lots of very useful information. We're looking for number 0 at the bottom, disclosure, PCR report, and it's gonna download. Once you open it, it's going to show you everything that has been tested and has either passed or failed. You can read through all the disclosures. It'll tell you step by step what they actually did in the property. If you look here under repairs, you'll see plumbing did not hold pressure. The water heater needs a downspout. The roof is damaged. So for every single file, you're going to see this. This is your first step to know how much you're really willing to get into this and how much work needs to be done. Second page is a little further. It tells you if anything was missing, if it was damaged, if the utilities were on when they did the tests. And this is all stuff that you keep. The lead-based paint tells you whether or not there's anything noted or if they have any records, it'll be checked off. And that's all the information that you're going to get from the start to make a determination for what your bid should be. All right, so once you've already done that and you've decided you want to place a bid, you're going to go to the bottom right here where it says submit an offer.
I apologize. I'm sorry to interrupt. Before we go any further, can you go back and show me how you got to that tab with the information?
You want to know how to get the PCR?
Yeah, the price, the
Yes.
file page.
Right here where it says addendums, the third tab over.
Okay, got it.
All the way down at the bottom.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's go back over here to submit an offer. It's going to tell you, like Ron was saying, your bid submission time remaining right here. It is active and tells you minute to minute it will update. This one has 4 days, 11 hours, and 30 minutes left because it is in the exclusive period. The exclusive period is when the owner occupants are the only ones that are allowed to bid. So owner occupants have 4 days, 11 hours, and 30 minutes to get a bid in on this house before the bids are gone through and chosen. You can read through everything, take your time the first time you've done it. You only get 15 minutes to put your bid in. It will only take you 2 or 3 minutes as long as you have all the information in front of you. Verify you're bidding on the right house. Ron can tell you we've had a few people bid on the wrong house. You're going to go through and select your NAID number. You're a selling broker unless you work for a nonprofit or a government agency. You have to type in your company's NAID number and then your license number. Do not put your bid in under anybody else's license. If you are not a registered bidder, take the 5 minutes to register because all of the information, if you win the bid, is going to whoever's license number is here. If you bid under your broker's number, that is now your broker's commission and everything is going to their email address. There's no way to change it once you've placed the bid. So you're going to make sure that you're not a robot and we're going to move forward. Now see up here in red, time remaining. It's going to actively count down for you. You can be at the very last box. And if this time runs out, it wipes everything and you have to start over. So make sure you pay attention. If for any reason it times you out, reset the page, do your little reload button and start over. If you start over in the page that's already timed out, it's not going to save. So this is where we put in that magical number that you want to bid on. Ron, how much do you want to bid?
Asking price is what?
94,000.
103, 55522.
All right. So when I type this number in, I'm going to hit tab to go to the next one. And if you notice down below, it automatically fills in commissions down here. If you don't hit tab, it doesn't always do that. This is asking how the purchaser is going to pay. Let's say 203K because that's our favorite way to pay. This is the box where you decide whether or not you are asking for closing costs. You have to do the math here. If you don't want to do closing costs, you just type a 0 and move on. If you want to do 3% and you enter it here, you look at this number, it automatically changes. If I put in 5,000 here, it's automatically. This is the number HUD cares about, the net amount to seller. This is the number that will win or lose your bid. Automatically set up that it's only for owner occupants right now. So this is grayed out. Nothing else can be chosen. You cannot bid as an investor, a nonprofit, or a government agency during this period. If you do, there are serious repercussions. Number 10 asks if you can hold this offer as a backup offer. We always recommend to do so unless you need to know immediately because they will hold it in the bank in case that other buyer falls through and then they email you and tell you that you are the backup bidder and you have won. So you get kind of a first right of refusal on that. The next two are whether or not you're allowed to buy it, whether or not this says, do you work for HUD, any HUD affiliated company? If you say yes, you cannot buy. So none of those people can buy HUD homes. This asks if the selling broker has an ownership in the property. This is almost always going to be no, because we do not own HUD, so we do not own the property. Then we're going to get to primary purchaser. You're going to go and fill in all of the information here. Social security number, full name, address, email address is super important, as well as phone number. All right, Ron is buying this house.
Oh, another one?
If I'm selling it, then you got to be buying it.
Okay, all right.
Let's say Ron lives in Philly and he wants to move over here. All right, so the email address that you put here is where all of the documents are going to go if you win the bid. Make sure it's correct, because if they send you the documents to the wrong email, you're not going to know you won. They're going to time out and then you're going to lose the bid. If you don't get the paperwork back within their allotted time frames, you lose the bid automatically. All right, once you've entered all of that, it's going to ask you if you have a title company in mind, which you have to pick before you get to this point. You can type in any company that you like to work with, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to pop up. Let's see if Betsy is on here. What's Betsy's company, Ron?
Emerald.
Emerald, there we go. So see, once you type it in, it pops up. It's going to populate everything in here, and then you just pick who your officers are. Here is going to be your broker's information. Once you hit continue, you're locking in all of this information.
All right, now how much time do you have?
10 minutes and 34 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. Now, just to ensure that we're not winning this bid, I'm going to drop this to 83,552. Continue. All right. So listen, this said the selling broker commission amount is incorrect. It's always going to tell you when something is messed up. Let's see. So I tabbed it over. It should have fixed itself. It has. Come on.
Take 1 penny off of the selling broker's commission.
Bad math, right?
Yeah, well, sometimes it doesn't calculate it right.
Okay, so as you can see, it says it's not yet submitted, and it wants you to look and make sure everything is correct before you move forward. So you can review all the information. You're going to read all the certifications and the terms and conditions. Take the time to read them the first couple of times so that you know what you're agreeing to. I'm not going to do it right now. It takes way too long. So once you confirm, you get this bid submission acknowledgement. Always print this. If you print the bid acknowledgement, you're going to have this confirmation number. The only time this confirmation number matters is if something happens in the network and your bid doesn't go through. For any reason, if their network fails, your network fails, something weird happens in the system, that's the only proof you ever bid. If you do not have this confirmation number, nothing you did counts. So I'll show you when you open it, it looks exactly the same. Bid acknowledgement, confirmation number, and the information that you entered. I always save that in my file and wait until the day where they determine. So that's all of your information. All right, Ron, do you want to talk about it before we delete this?
Yep. Now,
okay.
That took how long? Less than
5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes. I'm a slower typer, so it takes me about 7. 13 lines, 13 questions. The Pennsylvania agreement of sale has 700 and some odd lines. The New Jersey agreement of sale, Eric, about how many lines does the New Jersey agreement of sale have?
I can look it up for you, but I don't have that memorized. You want me to look it up for you?
With HUD, it is probably the easiest, most simplistic way of an agent making money. This is it. That's your agreement. You don't even prepare the agreement of sale. It's done for you by HUD. They will send you the DocuSigns. They'll send you the addendums. Just get them signed. And you got your trip to Hawaii. What's the commission on that?
Where is it? 2506.65.
That's not bad for 7 minutes.
Nope.
Nope. That's it. Done, finished. Don't make it any more complicated than what it is, because it isn't. Now, if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
So in order to review, go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
In order to review the bid that you've made in the past, you have to log into your account. And you have to look up based on any of this information. Now you can look up your past bids. So you can see here, place this bid today. We're going to click on the confirmation number, and it's going to reopen the bid details back up. We can go through here.
Can you cancel it on that site also there?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. So we're as long as the bid status still says sealed bid, you can change it. If you have waited and it's already being reviewed, it's too late. So since it still says sealed, I can go down here and I can withdraw or modify my bid. If I want to change something, if I spelled the name wrong, if I put in the wrong social, I can modify the bid. If I decided the buyer doesn't want to do this anymore, I can hit withdraw bid. And it'll process and come right through, and it's saying it's not yet. Are you sure? It's always going to ask you twice. Are you sure you want to do this? You're going to check that you agree and click withdraw this bid. And now the bid is gone. I still print this screen just so that I know the bid is gone. And then you're done. The bid's over.
Eric tells me there's 13 different sections in the New Jersey agreement of sale. Sections, not questions. With HUD, there's 13 questions, and that's it. HUD will give you the opportunity to make corrections if you made a mistake. And you'll get an email the next day if your bid is accepted, a correction email. It'll be in like maybe 24-point type in red. You have 24 hours to make your corrections or your bid could be canceled. Pay attention to that, especially the timelines. There have been bids that have been canceled because the agent didn't believe that they're going to cancel their bid because they made a mistake. Well, they will. And it goes to the next highest bidder. Go try to explain to your buyer that they lost the house because you didn't get the corrections in on time. You're going to lose your credibility with that buyer. No question about it. Just for fun, if you want, you can scan over this entire map and see what's available all over the country. And you can get a feel of the inventory. We have folks on here from all over the country. I'll tell you what's going on our neck of the woods is inventory. I don't ever remember inventory being this short, ever. And I got in the business in 1979. Jimmy Carter was president. The interest rates were 17, 18, and 19%. And we have plenty of inventory to sell. But nowadays, it's just totally short. And this is not just the REOs. This is retail listings also. So if you have any questions on this, on the agreement, this is like really important. So we're going to spend some time on the agreement of sale because we'll open it up now, Matt, as far as questions are concerned. The deposit money, I just got a question on deposit money. It has to be a bank check or a money order made payable to the title company, not to the listing broker. In retail, on a retail sale, you're making the check usually payable to the listing broker. Not in this. It goes to the title company. Usually it's delivered to the listing broker's offices. We have issues in New Jersey. A lot of our offices have been closed since March. And they're going to do it again. The ones that did open. So what we do with HUD's permission We have the selling broker deliver the escrow money to the title company. The title company sends me an email with one PDF with a copy of the check and a receipt that they have the check in hand. The case number and the address should appear on the front of the check, so the check doesn't get mixed up with another property. Your DocuSign process cannot start until I have a copy of that check and the receipt, which I forward to the marketing company. As soon as that's done and that condition is cleared and everything else is good, your DocuSign will start immediately. And how that works, this is a different DocuSign than what you're usually working with. It was designed just for HUD. The first person that gets the DocuSign is the person that did the agreement of sale. They do not sign anything. They review it, they check it, and they hit finish. Next person it goes to is the broker of record, whoever was on the agreement of sale. Unless the broker of record will designate the selling agent as their signer. There's a document in there that the broker can sign and the agent can now sign off. From the agent, he checks it, he DocuSigns it, it goes to the buyer. Make sure you call the buyer to let them know that a strange email is coming to them that they probably will not recognize. It is from HUD and it's the DocuSign. Also, call your title company, make them aware that the DocuSign is on its way, sign it. We've already got the entire process done in less than 15 minutes because I tell my people, we're on the clock. We've got to get everything back today, not tomorrow, today. So no matter where you are in the world, you can sign this DocuSign. Okay, we'll open it up for questions. Does HUD still pay for title search and insurance? The answer is no. HUD pays for nothing. They don't pay for the certificate of occupancy, for the GPAR. They don't pay for the title. They pay for nothing. Now they will pay up to 3% of the sale price if you ask for it. My suggestion is if you're working with a short cash buyer, which we usually are, we'll take that 3% and we'll add it into the sale price and then ask for it back for a seller assist. Now Cathy's going to laugh at this one, but I sold a property in Marlton, New Jersey, which is on the higher side of being high. It was close to a little over 300,000. And I sell a $300,000 property, man. That is, I know God is looking out for my better interest because Eric's laughing because our properties are usually in the $150,000 range with, I'd say a big percentage of them in the $70,000, $80,000 range. Now, this particular buyer, he was, Cathy, you can join in on this. This particular buyer was a pharmaceutical rep.
Yep.
So he was very well qualified. but he was also tuned in to the financial world. And I explained to him, I said, listen, this house is worth at least $450, maybe more. But HUD priced it at $300, which is, you know, a bargain. Plus you can take all the repairs and put in a mortgage for $100 down. So you're buying a $300,000 house for $100. Then we can take another 3%, which is $9,000. And we can ask for a seller assist of $9,000. Bottom line was the mortgage with the repairs was how much?
Probably, I think he put about 50,000 in repairs.
We put 50,000 more into it.
Yep.
So the mortgage was probably about 375.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Yep.
Total cash out of his pocket for a $375,000 sale was $100 down payment and closing costs, but he got half his closing costs back.
Yeah.
So it cost him about $3,600 cash money to buy this house. Very creative.
Yes.
Okay, Valerie.
The appraisal run, when the property appraisal came in, what ended up happening is this, for this particular property, the appraised value, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it gave him 20% equity. So when he was complete with his project, he can refinance out of this FHA mortgage into a conventional mortgage and drop that mortgage insurance. So that was something that was also huge for this buyer.
Well, he's your best friend now, because if you keep the mortgage for 6 months and you're thousands and thousands of dollars in equity,
Yeah.
you can refinance it and get out of the private mortgage insurance. So automatically his mortgage payments were cut down almost $300 because he was out of the PMI.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it doesn't happen on every single property like that, but you're going to see value definitely with doing these deals. So it's instant equity.
Right, Eric, what was that again? It went too fast.
He made money by purchasing that HUD home, he said.
Oh, absolutely. Before he moved in, he was a good 200,000 on the plus side. And that's with $100 down.
Did he use the 203K program for the renovations?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Now the 203K program, we've sort of fallen in love with it because it's an easy sell. And in some areas, HUD pays the selling agent a $500 bonus, which is really cool because we didn't do anything except explain the program. And we have to go back maybe 2 or 3 times to open the door and let contractors in if the selling agent can't do it. So yes, Valerie, this is only for an owner occupant. It is not for investors. Now, Cathy does have a program that is an investor rehab program.
Yes. You can actually, if you want, if we're dealing with an investor on any home, if you're looking to do the renovation, there's the home style renovation mortgage, which is actually a conventional mortgage. It's backed by AnnieMae, and that would be the way your opportunity would come in for an investor. Obviously, we're not fix and flip. That's not something that we're looking at. This is something that where you would be buying and and holding for a rental type purpose, that's what a lender would be looking at.
Now, something very important has come up this year that I've been asked to discuss, which we already knew, but we're going to discuss it anyway. I'll use realtor talk because I'm one of you guys. You got to show the property to the buyer. Stay away from the blind bids. You're going to get hurt one day. You're going to get a reputation. A blind bid, and I don't know if they use this terminology all over the country, but a blind bid is when a buyer buys something just looking at the pictures on the HUD website, puts an offer in, wins the offer, goes back to the property that he was never in and decides, I don't want to get involved in this. I paid way too much money. Well, the bid will automatically cancel because the timeline will be up unless you cancel it first. But please, on these properties, show the property in person. No video, no virtual, stay away from it. Get the buyer in. Let them walk around it themselves. Don't walk around with them because then you got to answer questions and you don't know the answers. And the perfect example to that is taking a buyer through the house and you're in the kitchen and you look up at the ceiling and you can see the sky. Now, we've had properties like this, but we love them because you have to be creative. So your buyer will say to you, well, geez, will HUD fix the roof? And, you do like Gomer Pyle, and, scratch the back of your head, you walk a couple steps backwards, and smile to the buyer and you say, listen, what part of as is do you not understand? The as or the is? It's as is. And you say it with a smile so the buyer doesn't think you're a wise guy or something. I said, but you can't get HUD to fix everything in the house. So immediately they've got your attention. So then you go into your 203K. Most people, if you take the time to understand, I don't really sell real estate. I mean, that's what I am. I'm a realtor, but I don't really sell the house. You can't sell something to someone that doesn't want to buy it. We create the opportunity for the buyer to get involved in a particular property, that they have to be a visionary. And by that, I mean, I had a house in Philadelphia many years ago in the Fairmount section that must have been vacant for who knows how long. It had a tree growing from the basement up through the living room floor. And you can't make this stuff up. I mean, the tree is right there when the buyer goes in. Well, I knew I had this house sold immediately because think, what can I do with a tree in the living room? So I told them nice folks, I said, listen, what you need to do is you can build a fish pond around the tree, like what do they call it, a koi pond? You have little goldfish swimming around in it, and you have lights up there. Trim the tree. It'll be the sharpest house in the entire neighborhood. Well, they went nuts. because it was creative. They offer $50,000 above the asking price, and the house right now is probably worth $1 million, and they paid less than 150. So whatever you see, don't let it bother you. You know, the house that you could see the ceiling, look through the ceiling and see the sky, no big deal. Put a skylight in. Idea there. There's all different ideas you can come up with. Be different. I mean, last year, I'll tell you about different. Last year, I was running a lot of open houses because we had fun. Now, you can run a HUD house on an open house. And this is not a good time to do it, but I would do. When things are back to normal, I usually run my open houses for 1 hour. The cars are lined up down the street. There was one property we had that somebody called the police because we had sort of congested the neighborhood. We had over 65 people in, and we're dealing with psychology. 65 people going through an open house in 1 hour it creates anxiety. Not to me, I don't care, I'm in control of everything. But it creates anxiety for the buyers. They were the real buyers were more interested in what somebody else looked like if they were buying the house. So I'll take offers at the open houses. Why not? I'll take them out in private, but if you're not a listing broker, you are permitted to advertise HUD properties. You need the permission of the listing broker, which you will get, because there's certain things that have to appear in the ad, but you can advertise HUD properties. Now, one open house I ran, actually it was more than one, it was about 5 because it was in the summertime. I paid an ice cream truck $200 to stay in front of the house for 2 hours, ringing his ice cream bell. Free ice cream for anybody who walked in the house. Out of that, you don't even have to go in the house, just walk by the ice cream truck. So I had an assistant outside giving out flyers. Now, is this crazy? Absolutely. Will I spend $200 to do a double? You better believe that. I'll do that day in and day out. I mean, we purchased a 16-foot flag, and we put it out. It just says open house. Hundreds of balloons we'll put out. We'll really promote this, but this has to wait until the pandemic is over, and it hurts everyone, and it's a shame because that's the way it is. But does anyone have any questions on the agreement of sale, the advertising, the financing? Let them go now, because we're going to get to the second part of the program. This is a 2-part program. Unfortunately, it's only 2 hours. Our normal HUD program that we do in person is a 5-hour program. The first 2.5 hours in the morning, then we have lunch, and then the second 2.5 hours. But we're going to get it done in 2 hours here. Yes, this particular program is being taped by Matt, who see, it definitely is being recorded. At the end of the day, there's going to be a drawing. Matt will tell you how to get the recording when the program is over. At the end of the day, there's going to be a drawing for, don't laugh, but for 2 Philadelphia Eagles 30-yard line tickets for one of next year's regular season games.
Ron, do you want me to start to go over the 203K now, or?
Yeah, we can do that now, but let me get with the tickets because the tickets are important.
Okay.
Regardless of where you live, and if you win the tickets, come on into Philly, spend the weekend. You'll have great seats, and you'll be the winner. Now, how Matt's going to do it is everybody's name is going into a fishbowl, and at the end of the day, he's going to pick a name, and you're the winning ticket. Yeah, you can go on the 203K now.
All right. Hi, everyone. So I am Cathy Miller from AnnieMae Home Mortgage, and I'm just going to discuss with you how you finance the HUD properties. One of the biggest challenges with a HUD property is the repairs that are required for the property to pass an appraisal. Okay, because we all know the FHA appraisal can call for repairs, and HUD is not going to allow or do any repairs for this property prior to closing. So everything for HUD happens after closing. So the 203K will allow the borrower to basically, once you're under contract, to decide what the repairs that they want to do. And then there are going to be items that are needed to be done to meet the FHA minimum property requirements. And then we take that information, and depending on, there are 2 types of loans. It's the 203K limited and then the 203K standard. But we basically will end up at the end of the pre-period while we're prepping to close. We'll have a bid, and we'll take the amount of the bid and the amount of the purchase price of what you've agreed to with HUD and put that into one mortgage over a 30-year period. It's a fixed rate. Obviously, it's an FHA-backed mortgage. So I'm going to go into the differences between a 203K limited and a 203K standard mortgage. Okay. With the 203K limited, the maximum renovation costs are $35,000 or below. When we say that $35,000, there are additional HUD financing costs associated with the renovation mortgage, as well as what's known as a contingency reserve. So when we're talking $35,000, it's going to be the contractor bid. It's going to be the costs for the renovation loan, which we can roll into the mortgage. And it's going to be your contingency reserve, which the contingency reserve is typically about 15% of that renovation budget or the contractor bid, okay? And that altogether has to be $35,000 or less, okay, to be on a limited 203K. It is allowed for properties, for 1 to 4 unit properties, as long as the borrower is going to live in one of the units. Remember, this is all owner occupied because we're dealing with FHA. On a limited 203K, there isn't a minimum typically on the limited, but our recommendation is $5,000 because there are standard fees, and it just wouldn't make sense to do less than the $5,000. The property has to be at least 1 year of age, and we obviously have to stay within the FHA county limits. Okay. When we're doing with the repairs, you need to satisfy the health and safety issues that you will find on that property condition report that Hana had shown us in the addendums on the website, at the HUD Home Store website. It's really important that if you're bidding on the property, that you actually save a copy of that, because once the bid goes through, it's just easier that you have that. I believe that HUD usually attaches it to the contract, but just in case if it's not, you have it, because any lender is going to need that, because anything that is listed on that property condition report from HUD is going to be required to be a part of the borrower's bid, contractor bid, okay? Then the buyer can also decide what they want to have done. Do they want to do the kitchen? Do they, want new appliances, flooring? You can do windows, roofing, siding, anything additional. Okay, obviously we need the property to appraise, so it's going to be up to whatever the appraised value is. And the way that works is when we're given that contractor bid, that is given to the appraiser along with your purchase agreement. And then the appraiser's job is to determine what is the value of the home going to be when everything on that contractor bid is completed. The as complete value, okay, not the as is value as of today. And once we get that value, as long as it's 110% of the, we're allowed to go up to 110% of the appraised value on these properties. Ron explained that in the areas that we live in, I get the 3P area, and the other area, I do Pennsylvania and New Jersey, but I know Ron was just discussing another area out in, I believe, Colorado area, that you can do the $100 down. If you're not in one of those areas, the typical down payment on an FHA mortgage is going to fall into place here. It's 3.5% down, okay? The minimum credit score on a 203K is typically 600, but we want to go. The ideal is a 620. Right now, because of coronavirus, there are some lenders that have put into place some overlays, which means that they've actually increased or added to some of the underwriting guidelines. So in some cases, especially with our company right now, the minimum credit score on a renovation mortgage is a 650, okay? So that is how a 203K limited works, okay? I'm going to go into the standard 203K. The standard 203K is for properties that has repairs that are over 35,000, okay? Or if there's something structural in nature. So if we're below 35,000, but the property needs a structural repair, even if it's one structural joist or something, may not be considered minor, but it is considered a structural repair, it becomes a standard 203K. Still able to do the $100 down or the 3.5% down minimum requirement. Nothing changes there. The biggest difference is we now need what's known as a HUD consultant involved. And the HUD consultant is basically an independent contractor. They don't work for the lenders. They're somebody that are trained by HUD to inspect the property for the borrower. In many cases, I would honestly say I highly recommend getting a HUD consultant no matter what mortgage you're doing, whether it's a limited or a standard. And the reason behind that is because they just act as the middleman for everybody. And they take a lot, they're working for your client, and they're kind of helping the lender to get more information on what's going on at the property. But they're going to go through that house. They know HUD's minimum property requirements. So if something didn't come up on that property condition report, they're going to point that out to your borrower ahead of time. And then they're going to do the same thing. They're going to say, this is what you need to have done to meet the requirements. And then the buyer can tell them, this is what we want to have done. And then that's all going to go into one report known as a specification of repairs, also known as an SOR, okay? That SOR, or specification of repairs, is actually going to have pricing on it for the buyer to let them know what an average area of what these items should cost to do. And the buyer will then be able to give that SOR off to a contractor. Now, the contractor side isn't going to have pricing numbers on it, but that's something that it's actually going to be blank as far as the costs go. But it's going to give the contractor a list of items that need to be taken care of. Okay. The other thing that a HUD consultant handles for the buyer is they go back and they'll do inspections of the contractor's work. So when we're dealing with a full or standard 203K, the contractor is going to be paid by draws. And those draws are going to be determined by the HUD consultant as far as the work being completed. And then they're going to let us as the lender know that it's okay to release the initial draw. On a limited 203K, which I didn't mention earlier, since we don't have a HUD consultant always involved in one of those loans, we're basically going to give the contractor two draws, one at the beginning and one at the end. And when I say at the beginning, it's going to be 50% of the upfront material costs, okay? That's what they're going to pay out for cost of materials. And then at the very end, an appraiser will actually go through once all of the repairs are done. Okay, this is all happening after closing when we're talking about contractor draws, but that just getting into what a HUD consultant does. They're also involved with the draw period. Okay, so getting back, a full 203K, the minimum amount of repairs is $5,000. Everything is pretty much the same, except for when you get down to the contingency reserve. So we talked earlier that the contingency reserve is 15% of the contractor bid or of the specification of repairs in this case. On a full 203K, there's basically a line item of where that contingency reserve money will be used for. So if we have, say, a $5,000 contingency reserve that we're holding basically in escrow after closing, that money is for items that are just in case that might turn up once we close. We're in the renovation period and something pops up and the borrower needs money to take care of these items. So with a full 203K, that money is allowed to be used for health and safety issues first. So we need to make sure that the property is livable and we're meeting HUD's minimum property requirements. So if something pops up that's a health or safety issue, that's where that money is going to go. After that, then it can be used towards items that something that the borrower may have changed their mind and want to add to the project. Okay, now this is only on the full 203K. And then lastly, if the borrower doesn't have anything unexpected that pops up and we're not using this contingency reserve, then we would have that applied back down to the principal to do a principal reduction. Doesn't change the payments stay the same and are locked in, okay, at closing. However, the contingency reserve will just reduce the amount. That's on the full K side. When you go over to the limited 203K, as far as the contingency reserve, you're only allowed to use those funds if something health or safety should turn up after closing and nothing else. You can't use it towards an additional item that you might want to do during the project. So if nothing turns up, then again, it's going to be applied towards the principal balance. All of the HUD consultant fees are set and are standard through HUD. So they're going to be as low as $400 all the way up to $1,000. It's all based on the amount of the repairs for the project. Okay, that money is actually paid to the HUD consultant directly prior to closing. What we can do as the lender is when I had talked earlier as far as financing costs, that is one of the financing costs that we can basically roll that cost into the mortgage. And then once we close, on your initial draw, we can have that money paid back to you, to the borrower. Okay. So one of the biggest challenges with a 203K mortgage is going to be finding your contractor. Okay. The contractor, they can, as long as they're licensed and insured, they need to have references. They are fully vetted by the lenders. Any of the contractors, as long as they're licensed and insured and meet the requirements of the project that is being done. So, if you're doing a kitchen and bathroom work and you have a contractor that only does roofing work, we might call into question their qualification on that. It's preferred that you have one general contractor. In fact, on the full 203K, it is a requirement. On the limited 203K, they will allow you to use up to 3 different contractors. But again, it really causes a bit of a headache because it's very difficult to coordinate those 3 contractors with all of the paperwork that's required for a contractor package for one of these mortgages. So we recommend one general contractor. They can sub the work out to the plumbing, electrical, whomever they're going to use to do the project. But that one main general contractor will be who we approve and vet for your project. What else do I have? Okay, so when you have a buyer initially looking at HUD properties, you want to get them obviously pre-qualified, and you can have them contact me or whatever lender you're choosing to use. Have them review this loan with them, go over it, because it's such a good product. But if the buyer gets into this and they don't fully understand what is required of them once we get under contract, it could really delay your closing. Okay. And again, one of the biggest delays is the contractor. Trying to have the borrower find a contractor that is, number one, qualified. The pricing, it can add some stress to the project. But if we all work together, we can help to encourage to get this contractor bid and contractor together. It'll make your project go and your closing go much smoother. We typically ask for 60 days to close one of these loans, and that is because of the contractor piece of it, because it's really just an FHA mortgage. It's just your standard FHA 203B mortgage, but we're adding a renovation piece to it. And that renovation piece is, number one, if you're finding a contractor, getting a contractor bid, having the contractor work with your HUD consultant. And that's what adds the additional time frame. If you have a file that you already have a contractor in place, you already have a contractor bid, we can close that in 30 days, no problem. But typically we're looking for 60 days on a project like this. The borrower has 6 months after we close to finish the project. Okay, and that is all handled by a draw administrator after closing. You as the agent, you're typically not involved. Your payment, and you're paid the day that we close. And after the fact, we as the lender take over the project from there. So I don't want you to think it's extra work after closing, because it should not be. I think that's covering everything right now. So if anybody has questions, or Ron, if there's anything you think I forgot and didn't mention, let me know. Oh, I can't hear you, Ron. You're on mute.
Ron, you're still muted.
There we go. We okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to give everyone your email, so
Yeah.
if they have any questions, it's
I put it
free.
in the chat, but I'll throw it in there again right now. Let me go through. Is there questions in the chat? Yes. Let's see.
Okay, well, yes, you have to use the contractor who gave you the estimate for the repairs. $500 bonus at closing to buyer brokers for their purchase of a 203K.
Right.
It's a bonus that HUD gives out. You don't have to ask for it. It's done automatically. when you sell a house and you use a 203K. It's supposed to go to the selling agent, but each company has their own rules. With our company, any bonuses that are offered by sellers go directly to the agent.
Right.
Uh,
I think Michael had a couple questions. It sounds like, Michael, you may have had a bad experience with a 203K. One of your questions is about the drawbacks of a 203K, and you also had mentioned that there was it costs a bundle. I don't know about costing a bundle portion of it, because I think that you have to keep in mind on some projects, I have borrowers that are asking for $100,000 to do renovations. And if we're doing $100,000 in renovation, it's a higher risk loan for a lender. So yes, your interest rate is definitely going to be a little bit higher, maybe about 0.25% higher. In some cases, it may only be 0.1% higher. It really honestly depends on the time. There are definitely additional lender fees associated to this loan, but we're not talking $10,000 in fees. It's honestly all related to how much money is being given to do these repairs after closing. So it's typically not as costly as what you might think. The drawback to a 203K, I'm going to be honest, is having a good contractor work for you. Okay, the HUD consultant is not as expensive as you might think. Again, their fees are regulated for their specification of repairs report. That is regulated by HUD. Okay, but having that person involved helps to keep the contractor moving along. Okay, because in the beginning, when we're in the phase where we're actually getting ready for closing, we need a contractor package. We need their insurance. We need their license. We need everything. We basically are betting to be sure that this contractor is in good shape to be doing this project, especially a large project. But keep in mind, you're getting $100,000 to do this project. And where else would you get that? Who has that money out of pocket to be able to do the projects? I mean, let's think about what they're doing on HGTV. You know, they're all most likely using, unless they have that cash on their own for those renovations, there's no other mortgage where you can get the money to do these repairs. So the biggest headache is just finding a good contractor to work with. Okay, there's no 203K contractor. Any contractor that is licensed and insured can work on a 203K project as long as they have references and they're familiar with doing the type of work that's in your project. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. I'm going to see if you asked any other questions. Yes, contractor selection is a concern. We recommend general contractors. It's not sometimes the HUD consultants, which you can actually go onto HUD's website. And if you Google HUD consultants in a certain area, you can find out who's been approved by HUD. Majority of those individuals are contractors themselves. So that's one area where I tell a lot of buyers, you know, that can be one of your first areas of looking for a contractor because they already know how the process works. But any contractor that is established is good for this type of loan. So I wouldn't say that you're a guy that's working from job to job, that this is going to be a good type of project for them. But somebody that's, you know, middle of the road, maybe has some financial backing or isn't working job to job, that's someone that's better to use in this type of situation because there is paperwork that we need done. It's nice if they have, you know, someone working in the office for them to be able to do the paperwork that we require prior to closing. Is flipping forbidden with HUD, Ron?
I'm sorry, the what, Kath?
If there's a question in here asking, is flipping forbidden with HUD?
Is flipping prohibited?
Yeah,
No, it's encouraged.
right.
Which is, that's a good segue leading right into the next subject.
Yep.
One thing I'd like to add, which is really important, no repairs can be made on any HUD property for any reason prior to closing, period. If HUD does not require a CO or a UNO, which is a certificate of occupancy or a use and occupancy certificate at closing, it's the agent's responsibility. Actually, it's the buyer's responsibility to get them post-closing. The buyer doesn't get a free pass because they're buying a HUD house that they don't need a CO. They do, but they don't need it for closing. It's right. Everything is post-closing. So, with that being said, no repairs at all on the property prior to closing. And that's really not negotiable. These houses are inspected every other week by the listing broker. And the week that the listing broker is not there, the field service manager is there. So on the average, the property gets inspected once a week for vandalism, for repairs being made, for whatever, in conditions. Do not give the key code to your buyers. Do not give the key to the buyers. This happens all the time. We have agents in our areas taking keys that they think that it's going to stop other buyers from placing an offer of getting into the house. It doesn't, because Hana is out there within hours replacing them. We had one hot property. We had to replace the lock boxes and the keys 11 times in 1 week. We started hiding the lockbox under rocks. So in order to show it, we needed a phone call to verify who was getting in, and then we led them to where the rock was. It's absolutely, it's a crazy market we're in. In Philadelphia, we had one property that whoever it was, we assumed that it was a selling agent, actually changed the lock. So we could put a new lockbox in, but fear not, because we were given permission to do minor repairs. And Hana, here she is, she's very pretty, but she is mean with tools. She can fix almost anything.
You have to with these kind of houses.
I'm sorry, the what?
So we have to fix lots of things with these houses,
That's for
especially
sure.
the entry and exit.
Now, all these houses, all these HUD houses should be cleaned out by the time you're showing them. At least we hope they are. Vandalism is a problem in some areas. We've managed to have a 22-month streak of no vandalisms in our New Jersey properties. We've come up with a great plan. We sat down last year and we thought about it, and we started to have to think like the bad guys. And what we're doing seems to be working. There are areas that vandalism is just rampant, and it's a shame. We have squatter problems in Philadelphia. We can't get squatters out because there is a moratorium on evictions. Except there's no moratorium on evictions for illegal squatters. But that's not working out too well either. There's all kinds of problems and issues and challenges when we sell these properties. But everything, and it's like I tell all the buyers and I tell all the agents, everything closes. We just don't know when and we don't know where. But give it enough time and it'll close. The next series we're doing, which is, in fact, this course here that we just had, and the next one coming up, which will be about a half hour, and that's, then we'll go to private stuff if you want. These two courses have been approved in New York and in New Jersey for continuing ed. Can't do it here on a Zoom site, but when we get back to the classroom, they are continuing ed approved. The next, do we have any questions before we start about agents buying HUD homes? I have one thing to say about all the listing brokers we have that I know Angel asked everyone to join the seminar today. It's really trying times in pandemic to have classes like this. And we get credit for them. I mean, we have to do them, so we feel let's do them big scale. Why do them with 5 or 10 people when we can do a couple hundred? The best thing to do is, not all the real estate organizations, associations, and boards are as education geared as the Philadelphia Association of Realtors. So I would suggest, and this is just my suggestion, if you want to do something like this, is go to your board, go to your association, and explain to them that HUD is the biggest, largest seller of real estate in the United States. No one sells more real estate than HUD. And see if you can do a seminar like this. And the first one, you might not, you might get 20 or 30 people, which is great, because when you do your report, that's 30 more people than nothing. We've trained over 20,000 people throughout the United States, and a lot of people have made a lot of money. This is all I do is HUD. I don't do retail. I learned a long time ago is your time is short. So let's find something that we can do and that will make money. Now, luckily, most of you can buy a HUD house. If you're connected or you work for a listing broker, you cannot purchase a HUD house. And the reason for it is HUD does not want any signs of any improprieties. If you wind up buying one and you get caught, you'll lose your privileges. You won't be a listing broker, and you probably won't be a bidding broker anymore either. So it's really not worth it. You want to buy something, buy a Fannie Mae or a Freddie Mac or a foreclosure like that. You cannot buy a HUD house. Now, if you're an agent or if you're a broker not connected with HUD, these are tremendous opportunities for you. It used to be, back in the day, we started this, I think, in 1970, 1980, 1990, maybe. That was 1990. That you could only buy 6 HUD houses in 1 year. And that changed. If you're an investor and you don't work for any HUD brokerage, you can buy as many as you have cash for. There's no limitations. The only thing I will tell you is do not at any time be in competition with a client. Absolutely do not. It's, in my opinion, it's not ethical. Some boards, they don't seem to have a problem with it, but I sure do. If you're working with a buyer and you're showing them a HUD house and you fall in love with it yourself, either as an owner occupant or an investor, tell that buyer, plain out and simple, disclose to them, I am also interested in this property and I cannot work with you as a buyer for it. So I will give you someone else in my company's phone number and you can place your bid through them. I mean, there has been nasty, nasty stuff going on of agents being in competition with buyers. Don't do it. Also remember, and then we'll go to the program, is no repairs can be made prior to closing. I'll tell a quick story of what happened and then you'll laugh about it. There was an agent that put an offer in on a property with another agency, and the agent got back a confirmation. Unfortunately, the agent must have been challenged on the English language because he read it instead of a confirmation as an approval. So he tells his investor buyer, congratulations, you won the house. Buyer says, great. Listen, we've done business before. Can you give me the key? And this is when HUD first went privatized. Can you give me the key? The agent said, sure, no problem here. You can start working on it and, you'll be ready to sell it as soon as we close. Well, the investor puts in new roof, new windows, new kitchen, Corian countertops, stainless steel appliances, plush rugs, put an extra bathroom in. In the meantime, the property is shown by another agent who puts an offer in that wins it. Now remember, the buyer looked at this house that it was basically really cosmetically challenged. And when he went back in for a walkthrough close to settlement, he walks into this gorgeous, beautiful house thinking that HUD made all these improvements for him. He was just ecstatic. And this was back in the days of George Bush. He said right in the middle of the conversation, God bless George Bush, look what he did for us. Well, about a week later, the investor comes banging on his door. What is he doing in his house? He says, not your house, it's my house. Well, there was a little, how shall we say, disagreement on the front steps. And Philadelphia Finest were called, and the police department came. And the first officer on the job just happened to be a part-time realtor. So he knew the terminology to ask. He said, okay, who has the deed? The buyer says, I have the deed. Who's got the HUD one? I got one. He says, where's your paperwork? The investor pulls out his confirmation. Says, see, my bid's been confirmed. So the officer had to explain to him that the confirmation was simply that HUD received the bid, but you didn't win it. Anyway, $135,000 later, the E&O kicked in, and the agent had a interesting thing with the insurance company. And this is why one of the reasons is you never, ever, ever make repairs until you close. Ever, ever. So with agents buying properties, knock yourself out. You will not be paid. A lot of agents that I I work with choose not to have anyone in their office know their business. And I treat all buyers equally with confidentiality. So they just simply place their bids with me. No one in their office knows what they're doing. They don't want anyone to know. I can understand that. But if you do place your own bid, HUD will not pay you. Period. Financing is very important. And a lot of buyers are using hard money. So for those of you that do not know what hard money is, it's legalized extortion. There are no banking guidelines with hard money. A hard money lender is just what it is. It's hard to get. So they might charge you triple the interest rate and maybe 10 points, maybe 5 points. A lot of money they charge. But a lot of guys look at it is, what's the difference? Oh, I'm not going to be paying on it that long anyway. But we have a real problem in New Jersey with hard money lenders. The underwriters are now calling for all utilities to be on at the time of the appraisal. No HUD property has utilities on. Most of them, you can't get all the utilities turned on because either the copper is missing and the water will not hold pressure. The heating unit is missing some parts. The gas line is cut, whatever it is. And the field service manager will not allow you to turn the utilities on. So the hard money lender keeps the application fee, keeps the appraisal fee, keeps the credit report. You're out about $2,000. And I tell every agent and I ask every agent that brings an agreement of sale in, because I call every agent after their offer has been accepted. Who's the lender? What kind of mortgage is it? If it's a conventional loan, I try to explain to them the best I can that all conventional lenders call for the utilities to be turned on at the time of the appraisal. It's not going to happen. It's just plain not going to happen. The loan will not close. So why don't you just do a rehab 203K loan? It's very important with a K loan that the utilities do not have to be on at any time until after closing. Correct, Cathy? Cathy?
You're muted, Cathy.
I know. Say that again, Ron.
The utilities do not have to be on at any time
No.
in the 203K
Nope.
until after closing, because you don't know what's wrong with it.
No. Exactly.
So,
For the 203, that's the whole purpose of doing this type of mortgage with the HUD homes. Is because wouldn't you say, what percentage? 80% of the properties don't have utilities on?
well, none of them have them on, but I'd say at least 50%, maybe more, you can't turn them on. Maybe you'll be able to turn on one, but you can't turn on all three.
Right.
And that one that you can turn on, say the gas, well, you can't turn that on because you can't turn the water on because you can't fill the water tank up with gas, because if you do that, you'll blow the water tank up.
Yep. 100.
So basically, no utilities.
Right. No utilities need to be on for the renovation mortgages prior to closing. We don't.
Exactly. And another reason I like to see agents buy properties is by the time you go through the process, you'll be an expert working with your buyers on the steps you have to take, because now you're involved with it personally. And also, you have to understand that a lot of investors have a IRA, real estate IRA, check with your accountant first, that's my disclosure, that they buy properties and they put it in an IRA, which is great. You can do it as an agent yourself. So, financing types, the IN insurable. That means, and I say this with a smile on my face, that means that the appraiser, the FHA appraiser, went through that property and found no repairs. Now, we're not talking about cosmetic, we're talking about minimum property requirements, so on and so forth, that it needs nothing. So that property qualifies for a regular 203 FHA mortgage. $100 down or 3.5% down, depending on which program you're going to use. Keep in mind that not all lenders recognize or do the $100 down program. They just don't. And the reason they don't is because they don't know about it. And I've gotten into quite a few, how shall we say it, conversations with underwriters that there really is such a thing. And they swear up and down they're reading the FHA guideline book, which is right in front of them, and it's not there. So, oh well, make sure you check with your loan officer whether they do them or whether they do not. The next property is an IE, insured with escrow. That means there are repairs, but they are under $11,000. Actually, it's $10,000, but they give you 10% leeway, so it's $11,000. So what happens there is the lender escrows X amount of dollars. It's put into your mortgage. After closing, the repairs are made, and goodbye. You're finished with that. Fix up the house, and you go. The uninsurable ones are the ones I like the best. They are really bad. $10,000 or more, you can do a 203K. This way you can make that house look like the most pristine house on the street. And we're using OPM all the time. Other people's money. We're not using your money. It's the only program in real estate that you can sell that the buyer can keep their money and get their house and fix it up. Somebody else's money. It's not yours. Not mine. It's the government's. That's wonderful. They put this program out to increase sales, and they love, and this is why they're paying a $500 bonus on it. They want these mortgages to be sold. Well, really, they sell themselves. So that's on your 203K. Naturally, there's cash and there's conventional. Be very, very careful with conventional mortgages because of the utilities. How do you know if the utilities are working? You go to your PCR, your property condition report, and it'll tell you. Water does not hold pressure. Right away, you know you can't turn the water on. Heating unit is missing elements. You know you can't turn the heat on. Whatever it might be. Buy a house. It's great, especially the HUD properties. If anyone, including other brokers, wants some good ideas on marketing, I'll give you my email address, which is njpa hudhomes@gmail.com. And if you have any ideas, please share them with me because I love new ideas. Might not beat the ice cream truck, but they're really good ideas. Matt, are you there? Where is Matt?
I'm here, Ron.
Good. I'm ready for the drawing. And do you have something you have to say?
Give me 1 second here. Let me do one last check here. All right.
Now remember with these tickets, if you don't, if you're out of the area, and you don't want to come and spend the weekend in Philly next year, you can go visit Matt at the Realtors Association. You can always sell these on StubHub or Ticketmaster or whatever.
All right. I got them here in the hat, and we're going to pick one out here. Lisa Birchwood. Lisa Birchwood, you are the lucky winner.
Is Lisa on with us?
I'm not sure. Is Lisa here?
Unmute yourself.
I think she's here.
Yeah, she's here. She's my
All
partner.
right, you're our winner. So, Ron,
where is Lisa?
Here, Lisa. Campbellsport, Wisconsin.
So you're going to come to Philadelphia sometime soon?
Perfect. I'm from Chicago. So.
Right, where does Lisa live?
Wisconsin.
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 Wisconsin. Nobody
Campbellsport,
lives in Wisconsin. It's too cold there. Oh, really? Lisa, come on into Philly, spend the weekend. You have great seats.
You unmute yourself yet?
Make sure you give Cathy your name and your email address and your phone number. And when the tickets come out next year, so I'm sure you will remind us, we have to get them on out to you.
Maybe the
wanna
Bears will be in town.
Yeah. Matt, you want to have a closing remark?
No, I just want to say thank you to our presenters today. This was a great presentation. We had a fabulous turnout, clearly from all sectors of the country here. So that's really great to see that. We just want to say thanks for everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Cathy. Thank you, Ron. This was great. It was informative. Good time spent. Hopefully you guys picked up a few tips for our GPAR members. I'd love to see you on Friday for the listing contract, and then also too for coffee talk on Monday. I dropped in the chat box the link to our YouTube channel, so please check that out. You can subscribe to our videos. We have a whole bunch of videos in there, and we'll be posting more as we go forward with our different presentations. So again, thank you to everybody for turning out today, spending some time with us. Be careful, be safe, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Matt.
Bye. Thank you.